Hello, everyone. We are here talking about your questions and giving some answers. So I am very excited to begin this journey of what I'm calling Ask Robyn, sort of my version of Dear Abby. And this is a time where you can come in and ask your questions about your relationship, and I will offer up some my off the cuff answers to support you as best I can. And I come, as you know, from a background as a trauma and relationship coach, working with your ability to show up fully for yourself and looking at what might be in the way of that. So that's what we talk about here. And I'm going to bring up some notes because I do have some questions that came up. And so what I've been inviting you to do is to write in your questions, and you can do that in my Facebook group, the Rock Your Relationship Sisterhood. You could do that in a Facebook message to me privately. If you want to remain anonymous and you don't want people to know who asked the question, that's totally fine. And I won't be sharing any names. You can also send me an email to ask your question, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a question below and I'd be happy to answer it next time. So please keep your questions coming. This is a way that I feel happy to be able to serve you. It's totally free and my pleasure to be able to offer some support. I know relationships can be very challenging, and especially currently we're in the holiday season. We're in these challenging times in our world where there's been a recession. There's a lot of unknowns, a lot of maybe increased stress in your life. And so it's really great when you can get some extra support. So I'm happy to be here for you in that way as I can. So here we go with something that came up for somebody recently, which was she wanted to be able to do this difficult conversation with her husband, and they've had a history of him not really hearing her very well. And often he does all the talking, so he doesn't ask for her, how she's doing or what's going on for her. He doesn't ask for her input. He doesn't inquire. He doesn't offer much to her. And she also has experienced a lot of aggression from him, criticism, blame, and things like that. So she finds herself holding back instead of sharing. And she has this idea that she wants to be more confident in speaking her truth with him, and she wants to be heard, but she doesn't, know how to do that given the situation. And she finds herself just kind of shutting down and holding back. So I wanted to speak to that here today. And one of the things that I've been hearing different versions of this. So another person spoke to me this week about wanting to be able to show up and do a new task in her role at work, and wanted to be able to do that confidently. And so here's what I have to say to both of these people that I hope can help you as well. That when you have this idea that you should be able to do something really well, confidently, easily, especially if it's something you've never done before, like a new role at your job, or two, if it's something that you've often found very challenging, like the first person I spoke to. It's a high expectation for yourself, right? If you have this expectation, I should be able to show up this way, it should be easy for me, then often what happens when we have high expectations on ourselves, what we end up feeling is a lot of pressure. We put pressure on ourselves to do it right, to do it perfectly. And then what happens is we feel very anxious about that, because we feel all this pressure to do it a certain way, and we're not able to do it that way. It doesn't mean we won't get there eventually, but it may be an unrealistic expectation to have at first, especially like new task at work, and you expect yourself to know how to do it easily, and you're just learning. So what I recommend, if that's a situation for you, is to lower the expectations, is to remember that you're learning, that you're being a beginner, and to give yourself a break, basically to allow yourself to be in the learning process instead of feeling like you have to be at the finish line. Let yourself be in the process of discovery, exploration, learning, and along with learning comes trial and error, comes mistakes sometimes. And if we have these pressures of perfection, we're going to have most likely a lot of anxiety that goes with that. So when you take the pressure off, when you can say, it's okay if I mess up sometimes, it's okay if what comes out of my mouth isn't perfect, it's okay if, I need to have a trial and error and I have to correct myself. I can learn from this, and I know I'll do better next time. Then you are going to feel more relaxed. You're not going to have that pressure cooker type of feeling. You're going to be able to spread out and open up more to what is happening and more easily kind of self-correct instead of feel like you've totally failed. Because when there's those high expectations, it's the opposite of that, is like you fail if you don't meet those, right? So that's one part of what I wanted to look at with you today, that if you're in one of those types of situations with yourself, or if somebody else has high expectations on you, that only adds to the pressure. And if that's the case, it's good to have a conversation with them if you don't feel like you can meet the expectations. Again, if it's somebody asking you to do something you've never done before, it behooves you to honor yourself, to let them know, like, this is new for me and I don't know how well I'm going to do, or maybe I need a little support in order to do as well as you might think I'm going to do. Maybe your expectation is too high. And so if you can negotiate with them, have a conversation, let them know how you're feeling, then maybe together you can troubleshoot to help you have a successful experience instead of feeling like you're going to fail or let somebody down, disappoint people, and that type of thing, because that's a really hard, way to come into a situation when you want to please people and you want people to feel good about something, and you want to feel good about something, but you already know, you feel anxious about it and you're unsure and you don't have the support you need to kind of cover the bases. So hopefully that makes sense. And please leave a comment below if you have any questions about this, or if you, you have something to add, let me know. So another aspect of this that I wanted to touch on with you is that so often this fear of failure, or this fear of doing it wrong, and this pressure that we put on ourselves can be based on this fear of rejection coming from the people we're trying to please or trying to, not disappoint. So put a yes in the comment if you know that's true for you, that you have this real, strong desire to have other people approve of you, to have their praise, to have them like you, to be able to please them, to have them feel positive about your expression or your output. And so when we have that, of course, we all have that to an extent. There's nothing like unusual about wanting, people to like us and wanting to please people and wanting to make people happy. But if you are kind of relying on that or expecting that or really counting on that happening and looking for that happening, and then what's going to happen is you're going to also have more pressure on yourself, because you're kind of requiring that their approval or their pleasure with you or whatever it is in order for you to feel good about yourself, right? So can you see how that's additional pressure that you might have? You don't want to feel rejected and you want to feel approved. of, and like you're pleasing. And so you're going to try harder. And you also put there's like high stakes that you have on that situation. If you feel like, if I don't do it right, they're not going to like me, or they're going to fire me, or they're going to disapprove, or I'm going to disappoint them and they're going to leave me. So sometimes we have this fear of rejection, which can actually be more like a fear of abandonment if it's a, a little more intimate or closer relationship. A fear of getting hurt. Really, it could be underneath all that, this fear of getting hurt, or this fear of getting left alone and being alone. So just take a moment to see if that resonates for you, if those, ring true for you. And that could be related to why you might put a lot of pressure on yourself in certain situations to say the right thing, do it perfectly, please all the people. So you can see that perhaps that might be a real setup for anxiety and for your own disappointment in yourself. Again, there's high expectations for you to do it right, and also for you to please the people. And then if those don't happen exactly as you're hoping, you might again feel like a failure, feel like you're stupid. You might start judging yourself, hating on yourself for all these things that you didn't do right. And then you just, it's like a vicious cycle. You can't succeed in your own mind if you're always thinking that, you have to do it this certain way all the time. So it is a setup for not feeling good. And if you tend to be hard on yourself or judge yourself, then you're setting yourself up for that, because these high expectations are going to create that, maybe their judgment, but also maybe your own judgment. And that's the other thing that's really important to look at, is sometimes or often when we have these ideas that other people are going to judge us, we're going to disappoint them, they're going to think we're not good enough. Often that is rooted in our own feelings of not good enough, not lovable, not likable, not smart enough, whatever it is. And so we're projecting. That means we're like imagining they're going to do it to us when we're already doing it to ourselves. So take a breath with that. This is kind of a lot. It's kind of complex. It's multifaceted here, but I wanted to lay this out for you based on these situations that were coming my way. So you can see how again, complex it can be when we have these pressures on ourselves. Some of that could be to avoid feeling bad about ourselves, from ourselves, to avoid our own self-criticism, our own feeling of lack or insecurity. So let's talk about the antidote to this. And I don't expect you to just go do that now and make it all better, because I just want to say that out front, that the antidote I'm going to give you, or the solution, is a process. It's not something that is like a switch you can just turn on and everything's fine. So just know that we're all complex. We all have these layers, and we're all a work in progress, and we don't have to be perfect. And that's kind of the antidote I wanted to give you. So this place to start would be to allow yourself to be okay with imperfection. Take that in. It's okay if I'm not perfect. It's okay if I make a mistake sometimes. It's okay if I didn't understand and misinterpreted the situation. It's okay if what came out of my mouth wasn't optimal. It's not the end of the world, all these things, usually, right? So we are allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to learn as we go, to self-correct as we realize, oops, that didn't work. Let me try this. Sometimes if I say something, I don't like how it came out, I will just say that, you know what, I want to say that differently, or let me try that again. Or, I wish I didn't say it that way. I know that might have not sounded right. And I'll just give myself another try. Just like if you sent off an email and you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sent that. And you can write another one, and you can back yourself up and edit it. So You get to do that in person, even with an employer, because people, we all are human and humans make mistakes, right? So if your employer has super high expectations on you, you need to talk to them about what's realistic, or maybe you need to find a new employer if it's not fair that these expectations aren't really reachable for you and realistic, because you're just going to have so much pressure on yourself to always feel like you're coming up short. So I noticed my own like stress about that. Those types of situations can be so stressful when there's outside expectations and pressures coming onto you. So I really want to support you in saying no to that. That's not okay. If you put yourself under all this pressure and you don't feel like it's realistic or fair, and you're always under stress. So that place of starting with cutting yourself some slack, allowing yourself to learn on the spot, to make mistakes, and to ask for help, to ask for support, to ask for what you need in order to succeed, or to ask for someone's patience with you while you're learning. All of that I want to really support you in, because that's collaborating with people for your learning process, for your growth process, so that you can do a better job. And with the first example I gave of somebody who's got a kind of a difficult situation with her husband, she doesn't feel heard. She has a lot of pressure on herself to say the words right, or else he'll criticize. You can look at either seeing if he's willing to work with you on the words and, have some patience for you. Or it's also good to look at why you stay in a situation where you're getting criticized a lot, where you don't feel like you can be heard. So there's always two sides, right? There's what you're bringing, which is maybe your expectations are too high of yourself. You put yourself in high pressure situations. You think you're supposed to say it all perfectly, or maybe it's, so it could be that, and somebody else's expectations of you are unrealistic, or they're really impatient, or they're really critical. That can happen in a relationship with your romantic relationship, or with a friendship, or with an employer, or with a parent. So all of those could be possible, right? And sometimes if we've had, and so I'm going to say not only sometimes, often, if you've been the child, if you were the child whose parents had really high expectations of you, you couldn't do it right in their eyes. They were very critical of you. They weren't patient with your learning. They were not understanding. They punished you. They pressured you. Then chances are you've internalized that pressure, that idea of you have to be perfect, and you carry that forward into these other relationships with employers, with partners, with other people in your life. So that's why this work is so important for you to go back to yourself, because, we can't always change other people. In fact, usually we cannot, but to look at your own piece that you're bringing into the dynamic for how you're showing up and the kinds of relationships you're putting up with. Because if you you already feel like you should be perfect and you have these very high standards, you're probably going to keep agreeing to those kinds of dynamics with other people, where you keep feeling the pressure, you keep feeling the stress, you keep feeling like a failure, and you can never, get a leg up. So that's where this work for yourself is really important, to start to unwind these patterns of how you pressure yourself, these expectations that you have on yourself that are not realistic, that are not fair. And if you were to look at somebody else doing that to themselves, you would be like, hey, give yourself a break. It's okay. You can relax sometimes. You don't have to do perfectly. But with yourself, you might not be able to do that. And that's the most important thing, that you can do it for yourself, because we can't expect others. If others are that way, we're not going to, it's not our job to change them. So we have to work with ourselves. And then from that place, as we get more relaxed, more spacious, more allowing with ourselves and our imperfections, then we either have better boundaries with people who have high expectations on us, or we choose not to relate to that, not to engage in those kind of dynamics because it doesn't feel healthy, because it doesn't feel safe, it doesn't feel supportive. And we go towards the relationships where we do feel supported and we do feel held in our own learning process. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Please let me know in the comments below if you have questions about this, if you have your own example of this. Tell me what you've learned, what you've gotten from this today. I'd love to know your biggest takeaway. And I just thought of, before I went live today, that what I'd like to do to offer you is another chance to get my Relationships Foundations Toolkit bundle of 3 video trainings, one of them being about this topic of self-worth and how we are with ourselves. So there's a training on that. There's a training on working with your nervous system, which is also related to what we're talking about, because we can work ourselves up and feel really tense and anxious. So there's a training on how to work yourself down and calm yourself down. And there's also a training on how to communicate skillfully, which we've talked about a little bit today. So if you're interested in that Relationships Foundations Toolkit bundle and getting half off on that, I'm going to offer that through the beginning of the year. So you get a little window to get the half price on that. So I will put a link below and you can look for that. And I hope you jump in and get, this is a way for you to get a whole bunch of support and training in these areas for a very low investment. So check that out and let me know how this has been helpful for you tonight or whenever you're watching. And I look forward to seeing you for the next Ask Robyn. Again, put any questions, you can put them here and I can save them for the next time. Thanks so much for being with me tonight or whenever you're watching. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.